Kristie. Today we are going to have a special guest, Heather. She's my sister from Tennessee, and she has been working with sourdough starter for a couple of months. So today she's going to show us how to make sourdough bread with her sourdough starter.
All right, so the first thing you do is prepare the bowl that you're going to let the bread rise in, the dough. So we're going to spray it with oil. I've also used like shortening and just rubbed it around the bowl. So then it will rise and it won't stick to your bowl. So
does it matter what oil? You said shortening, but like this is canola oil.
I mean, I think it's just any sort of oil as long as it's a vegetable oil.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next thing you do is put the dry ingredients together. So we'll start with a 1/3 cup of sugar. I have my 1/3 cup right here. Sugar you just kind of scoop out and flatten out. You just make sure you have about a 1/3 of a cup of sugar. Pour it in the bowl. And then the next thing is a tablespoon of salt. And I just use table salt. Pour it in here.
Could you use like a crystal salt, or is it better to use like a...
I've always used regular. Mom only had light salt, so we're just going to use what we have on hand. So, and by chance, next I guess we'll just do the bread flour, and we need 5 to 6 cups of flour. So by chance, I've learned that if you use 4 cups of bread flour and 2 cups of all-purpose flour, the bread rises a little bit more and it's a little more fluffy. So I kind of liked it. So what you do with bread, with flour, you have to, it's a little more particular than sugar. So you have to kind of scoop it into your cup so it's lightly and it's not packed in, or you get too much flour. So you just scoop out your flour. I have to count out loud too, because I'll forget. You guys can help me.
I was gonna say I'll keep it.
This will be our first. You just take the flour and you level it off. Other people might have more professional ways of doing it, but this is the way I do it. So then you pour that in. That's number 1. We'll do 4 of the bread flour.
Okay, so now we put the 6 cups of flour in, 4 that were bread flour and 2 that were all-purpose flour. And we're on to the next step, which is
a 1/2 cup of oil. And I use vegetable oil.
Okay.
And I believe that's what it just says a 1/2 cup of oil.
Yeah. So, see, I always cook with olive oil, so that's why I was asking.
Yeah, I don't think you'd want to use olive oil in your bread.
Okay.
You want to use like a vegetable oil. So, set it on the counter so you can see how much you put in there.
And just so you know, I'm actually at my mother's house, and we're using her kitchen. And as you'll notice, some of the cups are a little bit different. That's because my mom, who has lots and lots of
dough. It's a party. All right. So this
tools.
Next thing is I'm putting the sourdough starter in. Now, I took it out of the refrigerator last evening and I fed it with a cup of warm water and 3/4 cup of sugar and potato flakes, just instant potato flakes. And then you let it sit on the counter for overnight, and you can leave it out for 3 days. But then you use it to make your bread, and you put it back in the fridge when you're done. So we're going to use a cup of this starter, and we're just going to pour it in here. So I've kind of stirred it up a little bit and made sure that you know, the potato flakes got mixed in nicely. So here's a cup of the starter and we'll pour that in. All right. And the last thing we do is warm water. So I need to let the faucet run until it gets warm. And then we'll measure in a cup and a half of warm water.
So while the water's getting warm, let's talk about some of the other things you've made
With the sourdough bread?
with sourdough bread.
I've made not just sourdough bread. This batch will make 3 loaves of sourdough bread. Or you could make a loaf of sourdough bread and use the other 2/3 to make cinnamon rolls. And what you do there is you take the cinnamon rolls, or the dough, and roll it out on the counter. And then you just make this cinnamon, butter, sugar mixture and spread it on the top of the cinnamon rolls. Or the bread, dough that you've already sprayed out. And then you roll it up and you slice it and let it rise another 12 hours. So what we're gonna do here is once we get the warm water in there, we're gonna stir it up and we're gonna pour it in our bowl that we've sprayed with oil, and we let it rise for 12 hours. So then we knead it and cut it and figure out what we're going to do with it. So we could make, if we decide not to do sourdough, we could make the cinnamon rolls, or the other thing I've done with the starter is make coffee cake. Now, that wasn't my favorite. It didn't turn out very well, but my friend really enjoyed making hers with the coffee cake thing. So, all right, the water's warm, so we'll get that poured in there. I believe it's a cup and a half. I think it's a little too much. Too much. Perfect. All right, here we go. Now we need a spatula to stir it. I guess there's one right here, right? There we go. My mom has all kinds of utensils around.
That's
so
what I'm saying.
Nice.
Various ages. I started
Yeah.
to say that and then we got distracted. So yeah. Okay.
All right, so we just get this all stirred up. At first you never think, oh my goodness, this is not going to make a dough. But it really does. It makes a pretty good, it calls it in the recipe a stiff dough. Which, I don't know. I'm guessing that just means it's kind of firm.
Can you zoom in on it to see what it looks like?
It's coming together here nicely. I love this spatula. It's nice and big, and so yeah, it's very nice.
And if you hear in the background, those are my kids playing.
And mine,
And yep.
my one. Well, this is really coming together, and now we just transfer it to the bowl that we sprayed earlier. I just pour it in there, and then the last step before you let it rise in a warm place is you spray the top of it so it doesn't create a crust on it. So you just spray it with a little bit of oil. If you didn't have spray, you just used a little bit of oil, maybe with a paper towel, and just make sure that it's just coated on the top. So now we'll cover it up with a towel and let it rise for 12 hours. So that's it.
All right, in 12 hours, we'll be back to see what we make with the sourdough bread.
We can decide to do
Right.
the bread or the cinnamon rolls.
Yes.
Or both. So,
Or
all right.
and the coffee cake.
Yeah.
All right. See you later.
Bye. All right, so we're gonna spray, we found 3 red pans and we're gonna spray them with just the vegetable oil so that they're coated. And we've prepared the dough here, and it's been kneaded. And so the last thing we need to do is divide it up into 3. So I'm just gonna get a knife here. Maybe this thing. Okay. I'm just gonna put it in thirds here. When I'm at home, I have a little pastry thing that helps me divide it up, but we make do. And so you just kind of place a third of each of the dough here in each pan. And then we're gonna let it rise for another 12 hours, and then tomorrow morning when we get up, we'll be ready to put it in the oven. You bake it for 30 minutes on 365. So somehow I feel like this one's a little bit bigger, so I'm just gonna put a little bit more of this dough in that. Okay, this is the middle section. All right, now I'm gonna put it back on the oven where I had it, where it's kind of warm, and put the towel back over it and let it rise for another 12 hours. Okay.